Welcome to SCAP Writers on Zoom. This is the first, I hope, of many live events and also filmed events. We have spectacular writers with you this evening from Scotland, and we have also a special guest who hails from Australia. He's currently in Norway, and he's Ross Donlon, so we're really lucky to have him with other colleagues tonight. So thank you for watching this film, and hope you'll tune into many more of them. My name's Linda Jackson, and I'm hosting this with a wonderful poet and close friend, Donna Campbell. And I'm going to hand you over to Donna just now, and Donna's then going to start our evening.
Hi, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight. We have got a fantastic poems here for tonight for the first SCAP Writes Zoom. And the first poet I would like to introduce is Lesley O'Brien. I've known Lesley for, I don't know, about 20 years or something like that. And it's been through many different things, but mostly writing. And yep, Lesley O'Brien. So Lesley is a singer, poet and storyteller. And she's worked for Glasgow Women's Aid for almost 30 years. Lesley sings with the Carlton Jug Band and with the folk band Kitlin, weaving poetry, song and storytelling with fiddle, flute and guitar. With a passion for using creative writing to stimulate good health, Lesley chaired Lapidus Scotland for many years. She is a professional storyteller and occasionally works as a creative writing facilitator. Her love of books, huts and Mother Nature leads her often to Glasgow Women's Library, where she volunteers, and Carbeth Hutters Community Estate, where you'll find her forest bathing on her swing or sipping whiskey by her stove. Thank you. Here's Lesley.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you for that. So I would like to begin with a poem that's called Carbeth and the Dumgoyne Goddess. And this poem was inspired. I'm very lucky to have a hut at Carbeth, the hutting community just outside Glasgow and next to Dumgoyne Hill. And when I'm there and up close to Dumgoyne, I always imagine that I can see this female image in the rock and the fauna and the hillside. There's a silhouette. If you look next time you're there, I'm sure you'll spot her. Some people consider it a kind of male sleeping warrior. Some local school children call her Sleeping Beauty. But I like to think of her as the Dumgoyne Goddess. And in my mind, she sleeps during the day and she comes out at night and she stewards over that beautiful area of Carbeth. So Carbeth and the Dumgoyne Goddess. By Dumgoyne Mound, there's a goddess to be found. By day she lies a mummy in her tomb. At night she rises out a Dumgoyne's womb. Wi' bramble coat and fern fat fleece, she stumbles down by roots and clabber. Mid stour and beast and glowering moon, she sups Craigallon water. By swirling crow, she dips her toe and floats upon a lily pad. West Highland walkers come and go, oblivious to this bonny lass. But Carbeth Hutters know her ways and feast upon her halcyon days. But if you truly wish to meet and touch her heart, by Froggy Lane alone at dusk start. Velvet green stepping stones for fairy feet that flee o'er the lull of the Ushkaba. It's my kirk, I must come once per week. She haunts me, a baby the universe, nestling against her weary breasts, bracken, birch and elm. She doesn't scold me. She wins me o'er with whispers of contentment from the bow of her campsie helm. She blaws nae wind, but I feel the cold kiss of winter on my cheek. Her gentle reminder that you must come once per week. Velvet green, stepping stones, it's my kirk, she is mine. Velvet green, stepping stones, I am hers, and she is mine. Thank you. I would like to do another wee poem. It's called Into the Night She Dances, and it was inspired by the wonderful storyteller and writer Clarissa Pinkola. She's from Women Who Run with the Wolves, and it's that first story in the book that inspired this poem. And so it's called Into the Night She Dances. Into the night she dances, arms swaying with the branches. She dances, on tippy toes. She dances, stepping over stones. She dances, skipping and a hopping. She dances, by willow and oak. She dances, skin moonmelt as she dances, laughs grass for the moon as she dances, by rowan and birch. She dances, hair swaying, swirling. She dances, hands on hips. She dances, into the night. 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 She dances. So thank you, Donna. Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Lesley, that was fantastic. Thank you very much. And you had me dancing there as well. I was like imagining I was dancing with the goddess. Thank you very much for that, Lesley. That was fantastic. Thank you. Thanks. Now, the next poet I'm going to introduce is Jim Ferguson. And I think I first met Jim, it was possibly about 25 years ago, and it was outside the Scotia Bar. And I think I was either trying to chat Jim up or he was trying to chat me up, but we were both very drunk, so we were. So, but I've known, oh, look at his wee face. I've known Jim now for like on and off for that time, and he's a wonderful poet. So Jim Ferguson lives and writes in Glasgow. He's worked as an actor, dishwasher, an office clerk, a drummer, creative writing tutor, and he's worked in milk delivery. He's the author of several poetry collections, pamphlets, and 2 novels. He is also a literary historian and critic. He earned a doctorate from the University of Glasgow for his biographical and critical research on the Paisley poet and songwriter Robert Tannahill. His new collection, Songs for Lara, will be published by Seahorse Publications at the end of this month, and the launch is in Avant-Garde on the 20th of September, so get yourselves down there. Jim Ferguson.
Hello, thanks very much for that glowing introduction, Donna. I was wondering who you were actually talking about there. Anyway, I'm going to do maybe 4 or 5 poems from Songs for Lara. I'll just read them. There's Songs for Lara is a book of poetry, roughly kind of inspired by the novel Dr. Zhivago, but some bits of it are just complete fiction for my head, and other parts of it relate to wee events in my life. So anyway, this first one I'm going to do is called Russian Dolls. That's a kind of interesting game. I know it, and I love it just the same. My pleasure is your pleasure. Pleasure is ours. I kiss you again and again and again. Time is a slipping thing. It whirls and it falls. Inside in, upside out, layered like Russian dolls, whose hearts are baked in peaches and in flowers. Walls become the floor, and the floating ceiling falls. In shock for all our memories drifting out, through all time's fears and all life's dread-filled doubt, romantic dreams seep through on earthly hours, young ideals split once, yet remain uncut. A game of random rules and tottering truth, where old is young and certainty is just youth. The only thing for sure is to mend and do. You blink, I'm gone. We blink, our world's gone too. So that was Russian Dolls. The next one I'm going to do is called Lovesick, 1976, which is kind of out of my strange memory. In the cool calm of morning, a calm of hearts, the sun moves higher into a zone of oppressive heat. My need of you stifled by strong red geraniums, the rolling rain, slabs of thunder crack upon the street, a climate emergency, electric lightning, the soft of your lips, tears drowning in rain, rain, rain. The earth torn open, revelation of everything new and strange, your dark warm eyes entrap me, a romantic illness, a lovesick dream within a dream, empty milk bottles tumbling down stone steps of who knows what is to come. So that, if anybody remembers the summer of 1976 in Scotland, it was really, really hot, and I just remember getting sunburned that year, which is quite unusual. It was back then. Anyway, this one's called Who Knew? So another wee kind of love poem, same sort of theme. We are lost but not blue. We two in our bubble, four hands between us, fingertips sensing all and each blemish on our flesh, the divine human body, physical and true, trapped in compulsion to join and belong, to be of I and I of you, gathered together inside our orb. I feel you tingling, I'm tingling too, dreamy and rich, all emptiness gone, alive and full in our moment of magic and wonder, priceless, inspirational, who knew? Oh, here we go, right. So this one's called Romantic Heart, and it's kind of set in the Wicklow Hills in County Wicklow, believe it or not, which is in Ireland. Romantic Heart. Who will take you from College Green to rolling hills? Climb a glittering Wicklow waterfall skyward, buoyed by olive light, setting sun, rainbows twinned aloft, pastel soft, clear-eyed ghosts whispering love, love, love. We breathe in this one place, knowing the truth of a risky, beautiful heart. Sound and rhythm of dreams entwine the coming night, so absolutely not alone, united in peace for now. And one wee short one to finish off with, which is called Only Love. Where do you go at the dawn of the world? We sink or swim in our region of being, open the door, move over the border. No one even knows we were here, as if you are laughing and call yourself angel. Where will your sweethearts be clear in the night? How beautiful you are, shining star in the heavens of everything. Your touch is a blessing, an infinite joy. In the night of forever, only love, no matter how vulnerable, can keep us safe. So thank you very much, everybody. And that's my 5 wee poems there from Songs for Lara, which will be out on September 20th. Toodly pip.
Jim, thank you.
You're welcome. I can't hear.
So everybody, thank you very much for that, Jim. That was brilliant. And I
Right.
can't wait to get along to the launch and read poems for Lara. And so that's the 20th of September, Avant-Garde in Glasgow. So get along, it'll be a great night. So next, I'd like to introduce a woman that I have known. I first met maybe about 20 years ago. And we were at, through writing again, but we were at an orchard gathering apples with our children one time, and we were all playing on a big trampoline thing. And so I hadn't seen Sandi for that since that time. And then we were up in Stonehaven, and Sandi came along to Stonehaven Festival. So it was great to see Sandi again. So Sandi lives in Aberdeenshire, and she works for a family wellbeing charity, mostly writing funding bids and reports. For pleasure and sanity, Sandi writes poetry and numerous unfinished short stories and novels. She wrote her first book at the age of 7, The Silly Elf, but unfortunately it never got published. This is Sandi Marshall. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. Thanks. Good evening, everybody. It's really lovely to be here. It's such an honour to be in this event with such amazing writers. So thank you for inviting me tonight. So my first poem is called Red Cape. I've written a few poems about stories, inspired by stories. I'm fascinated by the way that stories influence the way that we think. So Red Cape. She's my hero, the girl in the red cape, skipping light on her toes through the forest towards her female ancestor with baked offerings, unafraid of sharp teeth in a cunning smile, the gloom off the path. In my version, the woodcutter gives a slight smile as she hands the axe to the little girl and cheers her on. Red Cape lifts the weight of it above her head with an understanding of the might of momentum. She swings the blade down and slices through his matted fur. It only takes one cut. There is no exhaustion, no time wasted. Afterwards, the 3 women sit in the shade of a tree and eat cake through blood-spattered mouths, not even slowing their chat to pull the hairs from between. So my second poem is called Egg. At 12 years old, you are an egg, surrounded by viscosity. The world where everyone else lives is on the far side of the shell. You became this egg person on the afternoon that you discovered that sadism and paedophilia were not the norm. That afternoon, after they had told you you were different, once you knew you were tainted, you surrounded yourself with your secret, nauseating, yellow like yolk. You created space between your secret and the shell, thick, safe, gelatinous. Everything sounds different now, as if being underwater. It wasn't your secret until that afternoon, just something you knew, like your shoe size, like the rise and fall of the swing, like where to sit in church. And yet you hadn't spoken it, not even knowing that it could be named. You will discover over 30 years from now that you are not as you feel. There are eggs sitting at desks around you. The world has laid clutches of eggs in every classroom. Okay, my next poem again is inspired by a story, a myth, I think this one, Sealskin, Soulskin. My sealskin whispers loud through the squall of the storm. I stand with bare-soled feet sinking into my own reflection on the wet sand line. She sings from the eye of the sea, of the catching of currents, the diving dance beneath the water's surface, where worldly wind and rain hold no sway. My sealskin hungers for me. She twitches with tides of desire, longs to wrap my limbs in pelt. I am frisked by her song, taken to her, merging, splitting, teasing, commanding, elemental. Held in her slipstream, her slick body brushing by, keeps me fast in her flow, facing the deep. Some time since, I had dropped her from my shoulders like a shawl, imagining water trapped in velvet hide, holding a weight that wasn't mine. Today, my pale skin bristles as I stand to face the waves. I was fool to shrug her off, ache now to tell her she need not call. One day I will stride in, let the dark swell embrace me, leave no in the sand. And finally, I've just got one more for you. So my final poem is well, one of many, many, many pressing questions of our time, I think. So this is called Where Will You Place Your Faith? Where will you place your faith? In science or politics or old wives' tales? In the brakes of the car behind you? In belts and braces and natural justice? In conspiracy theories? In collective intelligence? In red skies at night? In the kindness of strangers? In keystones? In love? In sat-navs and taxis? In the anaesthetic or the tip of the blade? In cross my heart and hope to die? In short steps of darkness between pools of streetlight? In self-certification? In TikTok life hacks? In small, quiet compassions? In a good pair of shoes and a little black dress? In the deterrent of mutual destruction? In a bunch of keys held between the fingers of a fist? In first past the post or proportional representation? In filters and Photoshop? In child protection? In the belief that it could never happen here? In hope? In time? In seasons and tides? In common sense and the law of averages? In 12 good men? In the bullet with your name on? In blood tests? In scans and x-rays? In heroin and gin? In the power of beauty? In military defence? In the might of words? In a prevailing wind? In the stability of a dinghy? In a weather forecast or a shipping container? In the certainty that someone will notice when you don't arrive? For a price or in your to pay. Thank you. Thank you. That's me for this evening. Thank you very much.
That's very powerful stuff. Thank you very much for that. It was just a joy to listen to your poetry. Thank you. I'm now going to hand you back to the wonderful woman, Linda Jackson. Take it away, Linda.
Thanks very much, Donna. My wonderfulness is wandering all over the place. Thanks everybody so far. That was amazing. So we're hoping you're enjoying it and just take a wee bit of time absorbing some of this work. Our next writer now is a chap who I met when I was teaching at university, and he came into the class, probably hates this, but he came into the class and he sat there for a couple of weeks, just didn't do anything. He just absorbed what everybody else said. And I thought, okay, give him the benefit of the doubt for another week. And then finally came up with a bit of paper and poems, and an absolute wonderful poet, really, who's got a wide reading. He just absorbs one after another poetry book and has done the work and has lived the life, and he's now telling quite a lot of that. I was very taken by his poetry to do with various musicians, all of whom I loved. So I asked if I could publish his first collection called The Final Midnight, and that was a great joy to do. Please welcome Alexandria's George Gibson.
I think that is one of the few times Alexandria will be on the map. Most people talk about Balloch to try and avoid Alexandria. Never mind. But anyway, thank you very much, Linda. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here. I thought that one of the poems that I would read tonight would be one that's not had very much exposure. Indeed, it's the actual title one from the Seahorse publication, The Final Midnight. Get them while you can, starving artists, etc., etc. And Christmas is coming. So this is The Final Midnight. All the waterfalls of history and time have brought us to this final midnight. But how to punctuate it, albeit for no one other than ourselves? Champagne or tears, they pound in our hearts, they divert our ears, and we look up, but there is no concern among the stars. An eternal question on the edge of oversight. We keep asking ourselves until the moment of terminal light. Deep time makes itself known. The amplitude of our time resides unacknowledged as the final midnight dawns. We look up, but there's no concern among the stars. Thank you. The next one, most people that write have got a thing about stationery, and I'm not alone. I'm not alone in that. And my granddaughter has a sickness as well, and she was speaking to me about a wonderful paperclip that she found the other night. So there you go. Yeah, she's got this things, and this one's called Notebook. And notebooks to anybody, I think to anybody, are just a marvelous thing. I just love notebooks. So this one's called Notebook. I like this notebook. I like its size, the way its pages absorb my fountain pen's violet ink. When I read them back, the pages relinquish their meaning elegantly. I have many other notebooks. I can't itemize them here. I can never buy enough. Some are so expensive, so beautiful, they are too good to use, too fine for my poor, disorderly words to malign. In Sirmione del Garda, northern Italy, the Cartoleria Benzoni is the finest stationer I have known, where every notebook, pen, pencil and paperclip has been created without regard to cost by an elderly tradesman in a remote atelier who should have retired years ago. He knows the secrets of a well-made book, made the way it should, imbued, as it were, with this undocumented religion. My book, my notebook cannot be bought. It found its way to me. It reached out, it seduced me with its rich cream paper, deep purple ribbon lining and cover, residing in my briefcase, grabbable, usable for those moments, inspirational, to record the ripples in my reality. I lean on this notebook. Thank you. I thought I would introduce you to my Uncle Bill. My Uncle Bill is no longer with us, unfortunately. He's one of these small West Scotland men with loads of energy and who swore an awful lot. He was just one of these guys, but he had a wicked sense of humour. And I last met Bill at a funeral, and here we are, just part of the way in. This is called Uncle Bill. I hadn't seen Uncle Bill for years. He had stayed in the flat below many years ago. I didn't know then that this would be the last time I would see him. He was much older now, and his eyes were unsure, watery, twitchy. His hands trembled rail. I crossed the room and settled low. He looked at me and gently said, "Who the fuck are you, son?" I told Bill who I was, and he said he was delighted to see me. Spoke at length about my mum and dad, our home, our family, a wicked sense of humour flashing unabated. Throughout our conversation, he held onto my hand firmly, refusing to let go. I had to leave and wish them well, and with a handshake and a light hug, warmly returned. And he stopped me as I made for the door. And he said, "Before you go, son, before you run away, I want to know, who the fuck are you anyway?" I think Uncle Bill was at it. Never mind. So here's one, just a wee light one called "I'm Fed Up." I'm fed up. I'm fed up with my own moods. Aren't you? I want that singing in the rain happiness. If not all the time, then bursts might satisfy. I could make do, dancing from one puddle to the other, one cloudburst to the next, each one happier than the last. I'm fed up with sadness. I need to learn how to dance. I'm trying to find the steps. And lastly, still on the stationery thing, sorry about that. I write about very exciting things. This will be in the Mission Impossible movie, next one. This is called Bookmark. Don't get too excited. I have a bookmark of Klimt's The Kiss, glorious in its golden yellow foil with matching ribbon. It reminds me that everything, after all the years of thought and toil, is about that kiss, that intimacy that belongs to no other and defines everything else. I'm aware this bookmark continues to mark my place. Thanks very much.
That was absolutely fabulous there, George, and I love the way you referred to the disease, and I saw everybody nodding when you mentioned the stationery thing. I definitely have it. I really have it. I've got a thing about, I actually got a thing about brown wrapping paper as well. You know, the brown wrapping paper that's shiny on one side and it's kind of liney, and I used to lick that when I was a child. My mum brought it home to wrap presents in and string. She showed me how to wrap presents properly. Why, I don't know. But I used to lick it, get around for that. So my paper and stationery thing is quite extreme, clearly, if I'm actually licking it, but we're not going to go there just now. So I loved that poem about the Italian shop. I'll need to get the address and go up there. Beautiful work, thank you. And yeah, your Uncle Bill was, I'm sure, at it. I think he was at it. So thanks, George. Our next reader today is a woman who I sat in a workshop with at Stonehaven Regathering Festival. I heard her read. I thought she was a marvellous writer. I've seen her around. I think I've seen her. She came once to Avant-Garde and I invited her up there as well. She's a wonderful poet, and she's involved with music as well. And she was saying that during lockdown, like myself, there wasn't much space for that, so she wrote more. And she's exploring the history of her Italian grandmother. And interestingly, she has had the opportunity to give that to her own mum to see what she thought about it. And she was pleased and helpful, so that's great. She says she writes poems in the gaps between lessons. I didn't want to ask what kind of lessons, because I think we're all learning as well as trying to teach. She had a book out in 2020, another of these lockdown pamphlets, and it was called Nothing Happened Here. We're very lucky to have her here. This is Jennie Turnbull.
Thank you, Linda, for such a lovely introduction, and I'm delighted to be here this evening reading with such wonderful company. I thought I'd start with a poem from the lockdown pamphlet there wasn't a lot of music going on, and I was teaching, but I was teaching online, and in between times I needed to make sense of the world. So I was also aware, as we all were, of how precious time was. So this is called If I Had Known. If I had known that night in March would be the last, I would have ordered your favourite bottle of white, and coffee and cocktails and ice cream for dessert. I would have stayed out way past my bedtime, walking the rain-slicked city streets in unsuitable shoes. I would have sat on the steps of the fountain and counted the stars, never minding the damp on my dress. I might have hummed a little too loudly that song about nightingales in a London square. I would have missed the last bus home and paid for a taxi door to door, chatting to the driver from the back seat, your hand secure in mine. And when we kissed goodnight on the doorstep, I would have held you extra close, felt the fuzzy bit of hair at the back of your neck, and told you one more time that I loved you. Thank you. As Linda said, I'm busy writing a series of poems that tell the story of my grandmother, who was born and brought up in Italy. And during World War II, my grandfather from Scotland was stationed out there. He was billeted in the small town of Loreto and sent to a market gardener's house for his lunch, as the canteen. So this is called, you didn't know it then, but Loreto, 1944. You didn't have much choice. The market garden which had kept you fed brought the soldiers to your door. They weren't unkind or cruel, just noisy, ravenous, foreign. Your daughters ladling soup, slicing bread. The men's words incomprehensible, their tone unmistakable. But at least it was only words. You had heard tell of so much worse, and an ending to this would be a liberation of sorts. So when he comes back one afternoon, a smile in his eyes, an unravelled mitten in his hands, you take pity on him, let him in. Mariola can stitch, Giovanna can translate. Your son will take him to a football match. This liberator will steal your daughter's heart and break your own as no war had ever done. So my grandmother fell in love and married and came to Scotland in the autumn of 1947, which must have been a real culture shock in more ways than one. And my mother was taken back to Italy as a child, maybe a couple of times. So this is a poem from my mother's point of view about how you try and balance, the two sides of your culture. It's called How to Get to Italy. The quickest way is on your mother's lap, curried in, cheek to soft cheek, strong arms around you, smelling of almonds and olive oil. But your mother's arms are busy. Her lap is rarely free, so you have to seek a secret way. Brush the rosemary bush at the back door. Pluck a sprig and hold it tight. Put your fingers to your face and breathe. Take the first ripe tomato from your papa's greenhouse, quietly so as not to get caught. Soft on the tongue, sun-warmed and sweet. Stand in silence at the top of the stairs, listening to your mother on the phone. Memorize a map from the colours of her voice, the rhythmic rise and fall of her song. Pull the blanket round you in the dark. Feel the velvet blackness smelling of sunshine. Imagine a morning of new bread, fresh figs, and sweet milky coffee. Close your eyes and dream of heat. Thank you. And thank you. I'm going to finish with a poem called Excavating Myself. When I started to learn Italian, I was about 7, and I've been learning it on and off ever since. I'm not no way fluent, but I can get by. But it didn't feel like I was learning a foreign language. It felt like I was discovering something, digging out something that was already in me. So excavating myself. It is only a quarter of my DNA, this seam which runs through me like ore. My dark curls and curves might just as well be Celtic, my first words English, with a lilt of Welsh held between heather and sky. But for that brief splash of sunshine, when safe in the lap of my nonna, I learnt to ask for gelato, limonata, to sweeten my lips with per favore, prego, untangle the coloured threads of this embroidered tongue. I was caught. Quick, bright consonants and rich ochred vowels buried themselves deep into my flesh, nestled neatly in the gaps between my ribs, settled and slept in silence, layered with the sediment of history, geography, the music and mathematics of language, until displaced by the white glare of grief, they are dislodged, broken and disconnected, in need of repair. I am practiced at language, at finding footholds on foreign soil, but this is different. In this after-hours classroom, I am digging deep, disclosing nerve, bruising bone, excavating myself with a tarnished silver teaspoon, one verb at a time, a linguistic archaeologist in a grey northern graveyard, under a red Etruscan sun, carefully sifting soil, brushing back to the bare white bone, mending myself. So thank you very much for having me and for letting me read. It's been great.
It's absolutely fabulous, Jenny. And of course, if people don't know, I'm going to Italy soon. I wish I was taking you in my pocket.
I wish I was coming in your pocket.
I did hire Italian at school, and it was a long time ago now. So thank you for that. Yeah, and as I say, I'm married, my family are married into Italy, and I was a bridesmaid in the Casa d'Italia when I was 17. I've got this Italian attachment, you know. So I'm really looking forward to going, and I loved you discovering yourself, even if it was just a quarter, it was just something in you that's there ever. So our final reader and special guest this evening is a chap that I met at the Big Lit Festival down at Gatehouse of Fleet, and then met again at Stonehaven. And he is a wonderful, wonderful writer. He hails from Sydney originally, and then he is living in Castlemaine, Victoria now, but at the moment we have him in Norway. He travels a lot, I realise, and he reads a lot. He's guesting many places across the globe, and why not, to share the work that he has. I have read this book many, many times. Now it's called For the Record, and I've fallen in love with this horse and the poem, The Bred Horse. I've read it to so many people. So I'm still waiting, and I'm going to try and get hold of The Blue Dressing Gown, which was another collection based on his father. I hope he'll read that perhaps for us tonight. We're very, very fortunate, and we're having a treat ahead. Please welcome Ross Donlon.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you, Donna. And it's just been a pleasure listening to the other Scots poets there. It's been a real privilege for me, and rare, of course, to hear all those voices. So thank you all very much. It's been an honour. I'm going to begin with a poem called In Praise of Washing. I like the sound of a machine washing, the pulse and hum, the snoring slosh, the butterfly murmurs of something being done, the clack of a completed cycle. I like the fairground thrill, clothes spinning, the vicarious excitement of domestic life possibly out of control, a blowhole in the sink, the Titanic in a hallway. I like the taking out and untangling, the puzzle of wet clothes, the thankful flap of a shirt or singlet rescued from drowning. I like the shaking, hanging, and pegging out of clothes, joining others who bow their heads, then stand with arms upraised to held the line with clothes, flags, prayers, all words, a day's offering to the wind and sun. Thank you. This is Night Train. As the lights go out, your head knocks against glass, a dull drum trapping your reflection. Outside, thousands of lives stream down the line. Arrows and crosses point warnings as past becomes future. Your train heaves through rushing air, a kind of time where time stands still and only night moves. We look to the buffet mother for dream security. Uniforms and mechanical talk confirm this is a flight through space. We could be sleeping cadavers in our own body bags, and this the anteroom of an afterlife. But the chrysalis cracks as we stir, then wake, surprising each other. On the outskirts of Sydney, the moon changes behind trees to be the sun of a new planet. Pale in the weak morning, a hot air balloon hangs still as a gum leaf, delicate and tender. It's like being found alive. Lesley touched on the father poems, and yes, there is a long sequence about my father. Kind of too much to tell. A war story. This is one of the poems. This is called At Haberfield Demonstration School. At Haberfield Demonstration School, I was with the boys in our group at the meeting place, a peppercorn tree, eating lunch inside the shadow. The peppercorn's bright, spicy scent remains in memory, the way it stays on fingers with the stain. Soon, I would be ready for the big school, separated from the girls' asphalt playground of rectangles, circles, and squares. The boys played war up and down a sloping paddock beyond the classroom. We heard their cries a continent away. Suddenly, the talk turned to fathers and what they did. As turns edged around the circle like a clock, I discovered that I could not speak. What was it that I could not say? The bell saved me as I was falling. A huge part of who I thought I was had avalanched, as if a shelf had fallen from a mountain. I was an obedient child, but I ran home from school to my nan, my family skittled by a missing pin. We sat on her bed and looked at photographs and a face the size of a fingernail, Bill, from the war. She fanned the pictures out like playing cards. It was a summer afternoon. The bedroom's lace curtains glowed in tiny squares, and a wind blew a sweet scent from Peak Freen's biscuit factory, and the bitumen noise of cars rushed down our streets. Thanks, everyone. And thanks for mentioning the bread horse. It is a favorite poem, and it took me a long while to write. Someone said to me once, my poetry is simple. And I thought to myself, well, that's probably right, but it takes a lot of work to make a poem sound simple. You all know that. Well, I prefer the word lucid, I have to say. So this is the bread horse. And there's a quote from the Bible. You'd all be familiar, of course, with Job 39:20. The glory of his nostrils is terrible. The bread cart is parked outside a glebe delicatessen owned by the Nackens, who I will never see again. My grandmother works for them this one day, and I must play on the sawdust floor under their red faces, white aprons, and curtains of sausages. Heat from the bread cart and horse droppings make sweet street perfume. Tram lines shimmer between weaving cars and lorries, and the footpath will be my first stage performance, since I must perform the feeding trick with an apple, fingers straight as instructed, unless you want to lose them, lifted to the horse's nostrils, orange teeth, clanking metal mouth, and head as big as me. I have a presentiment of apocalypse, but his whiskery lips clean up both core and chunks, and his leather tongue soothes my fingers. I hear the jingle of harness as a signal to look, at twitching ears, a chestnut fringe cut straight, splash of milk spilt on a forehead, our reflections in each other's eyes. Then his hooves wake, shuffle, clop away, reins snapping his back as the wheels clatter. The memory hovers like kindness, like the comfort of hot bread, years after traffic covers his tracks. Thank you. This is kind of a, I don't know whether it's a love poem or not. I'm very fond of a jazz composer pianist called Thelonious Monk that you might know. I loved his titles, apart from his compositions. And he has a title called Let's Call This. So, yeah, I don't know what to call this. Is it a love poem? Come live with me and be my love. And let's say this is it, what millennials call the chemical hit that puts two together, most needs met, cup half full or full enough for everyone to get wet. For we've passed every test modern love requires, opening credits rolling through our cab fight in the rain, the storyboard scenes of trial and bliss that spark chemicals into flame. So, who cares if the ex from the dead showed up when garlic and crucifix were nowhere around? Or when a wide-eyed child arrived one day, insisting they were somebody's? Or when the friend from hell threw up the past all over the present, and death itself scanned a page and a life fell out like a bookmark? Let's say, after all, that we made it. It was fate. And high above the mass dysfunction of 21st century love, our sun set over everything, the moon shot up like popped corn, an all-star sky twinkled, we kissed, and rockets spelt our name in lights above the Empire State. Read your poem called Reservoir. Yeah, I'm very keen on swimming, on cold water swimming. So I have written, crazy as it sounds, 100 short poems, 100 tanka about swimming here in the fjord. But at home, I swim in a reservoir. So this is called Reservoir. A place where something is kept in store. Let's check my time. Morning, clear as crystal. Sun motes fill the reservoir, rising like champagne. I park, cross to where reeds hide the road, undress and stretch to a star shape. Leonardo's Renaissance man twinkles fingers and toes before the rising sun of high middle age. The skin I enter is blue, black, brown, or gold, and cool as silk. A wave of air combed by mist as I start to swim, penis a tiny rudder, body propelled by a no-name action, but enough to reach the center. I cruise a tightrope of water, more or less at ease above the cleft of flooded creek, dissolving now and then into the sky's mirror. And inside, close and alert. What discoveries in being an animal again. Once dragonflies buzzed close enough to see goggles, moustache, and flying scarf. And when night winds bullied the town, an archipelago of fairy islands shivered in next morning's breeze. Worlds of duck down whisked from border reeds. They disappeared in a touch. I count each stroke and joke, it's my reservoir rosary. I am better the more I do. But still take time occasionally to check my wake and always find, not surprisingly, my ripples only extend so far. The way I've come, already invisible, even when I tried to splash. Thank you. Thanks, Linda. Thanks, Donna. Thanks, everybody. It's been a pleasure.
Ross, thank you very much for that. That was very beautiful. I love the poem, The Bread Horse, and that vision of the seeing each other, the horse and the reflection in each other's eyes. Like I've seen a horse up close, the big eyes. I'm frightened of horses, but I just think they're beautiful animals. Yeah, thank you very much for that. And just like the magicalness of swimming in open water, it just sounds wonderful. And one day I hope to do that. Ross, thank you very much for that. Thank you, total pleasure. Well, everybody, we've come to the end. I hope you've enjoyed SCAP writing. I want to thank Lesley O'Brien, Jim Ferguson, Sandi Marshall, George Gibson, Jennie Turnbull, Ross Donlon, and Linda Jackson, of course. So our next SCAP Zoom write is on the 14th of September, and we're going to have a special guest called Kevin Higgins, who's an Irish poet. We met him at Stonehaven Festival, and is just a treat. So get yourselves along to this. Also, as well, we are going to be early in the next year, in the new year, we will be hosting these live. We're recorded at the moment because we're just recorded at the moment, but we'll be going live in the new year. Again, I want to thank you very, very much for coming along and watching what we're doing and amongst all these amazing poets. And again, thank you to all the poets that have been here. Thank you very much.